This Vietnam memorial commemorates Oregonians who died during that war. But there are others, not mentioned here, who sacrificed their lives, their families, their entire homeland in defense of American interests. One such group is the Hmong, the mountain people of Laos and Southeast Asia. Forced to flee, many now make their home in Portland. Like their parents and their parents before them, Andy and Cabao didn't choose each other. Their marriage was arranged.
Well, the first time I saw him, I don't really like him. Because I don't know his background, I don't know his parents, so I just like him as a friend, but since I know him, he's a very good guy, and that's why I love him, and that's why I decided to marry him.
I saw her freshman year, I think her freshman year in Seattle. I just really like her, but I know where she lived, but I just remember her first name.
Andy is learning disabled. He has the mental ability of an 8 to 10-year-old. Skills like managing money are difficult for him, but a gift for the new year is an important custom, and he wanted to get Cabao a new dress. Andy just lost his job and had no money to buy his gift.
My cousin, he had a gun, right? And he sold to me. I saw a place where maybe they got some money over there or something like that. Then I just went over there. I went to the back door. A guy trying to open the door. I put a gun on him. Then I go to his wife. Then I pull the gun for her head. Then someone come behind my back, hit me, you know? And everything just black out. But I don't know why I did it.
Andy was arrested and pleaded guilty to all charges.
Well, the law at that time was that someone with his lack of criminal history, who had committed the violent crime that he committed, presumptively should have been sentenced to prison for 34 to 36 months. That's what we call our grid block on the sentencing guidelines in the state of Oregon.
The ultimate consequence for Andy, beyond going to prison, of course, would have been, and still remain, deportation. In the United States, if you commit a felony with a firearm, and under some other circumstances as well, you get deported. And that's where Andy Kaying Chow was headed, to deportation.
Except Andy can't go back to Laos. In fact, none of the Hmong can go back because of the role they played in the Vietnam War.
In January of 1961, I accepted a Royal Lao Army assignment in the military. I was sent to Thailand for training by the U.S. and Royal Lao Army. I served as a radio operator until 1975, sending enemy locations to U.S. planes. My job in the jungle mountains was forward air spotting, contacting U.S. bombers, and reporting downed U.S. plane locations, and then rescuing U.S. pilots before the communists could find them. Because the Hmong sided with America, when America lost the Vietnam War, the Hmong could not stay.
They left Laos because of their fear of persecution. They ran out of Laos across the frontier. They swam across the Mekong River. There is no country for them to go back to. Andy could not go back to Laos. He is, in the traditional societies, the sins of the father are also the child's. And he would have been executed.
Deporting him was not the right thing to do. And the Hmong community felt the same way and was asking me to intercede. So again, I made a request to the district attorney's office to somehow work with the immigration service, with the Hmong community, to find a solution to this problem. How can we keep him from being deported, yet require accountability in him to serve his sentence?
Through the ages, the Hmong have learned to depend on each other for their own survival. Now, as a community, they chose to take responsibility for Andy and accept his problems with the law as their own.
So today I'm here. I want to know how you feel about living in jail and living at home. Which is better for you?
When I was in jail, no one took care of my children. I had poor living conditions.
By raising your
A
hands
special
and
agreement
taking
was
this
worked
oath
out between the sheriff, the prosecutor, and the judge, and Portland's Hmong elders. Instead of jail, Andy Kaing Cha became the responsibility of his community.
Everything that you want to do, you must think twice before doing it. Now, what are you going to do to become a good person in your community?
I want to be an honest person to others.
If you want to be an honest person, you must stop breaking the law like you did in the past.
One of the goals for us is that to really find a way to help these persons to change. And we really believe that once a person is, behave in a totally unacceptable way, this person is very much off balance. And so therefore, one of the key is whether or not we have to find ways to treat him mentally, spiritually, or physically.
What had been an antagonist relationship between the Hmong and the police is better thanks to a unique community policing agreement.
The concept of community policing is sharing the responsibility for neighborhood safety with the rest of the community. Law enforcement recognized we couldn't do it, so we reached out and tried to tell the community, you cannot be a bystander any longer. You have to do something to improve the safety of the city.
By the judge conferring his authority, in effect deputizing these grandpas and these uncles, is we have the authority of the state coming down to the community, giving these kids, forcing these kids to have to deal with their parents. Those are the bosses. Andy in jail would be nobody. He would not be Andy, the son of Vachai, or Andy, the husband of Kabao, or Andy, the father of those children. Andy is defined by his duties to those people. There would be a tremendous amount of shame. Those children growing up without a father would have been the biggest harm done to this family. This woman having to raise those children by herself would have ensured another generation of suffering.